of you were at the opening ceremony yesterday. Okay, most of you. So you remember my one word, urgency. Okay, now, I always begin with the end in mind. For this very short session, 1.5 hours, I was asking myself, what will you be different when you leave this room this morning? What will be the ideal outcome for you? Now, there are two possibilities. One, you gain some knowledge. The speaker will share with you information and insights and their experience. Definitely, you'll gain some knowledge. But there is another possibility. You will get inspired. Inspired to the extent that you might want to change your career, your jobs, your life. Now, I'm hoping that the speakers today will be able to inspire at least some of you. I hope maybe half of you. I'm realistic. It won't be 100%, but at least half of you, to the extent that you might seriously rethink what you will do for the rest of your career in life. In Chinese, now I studied at Chinese University, Songke. At that time, Songke, New Asia, I have to travel to all 3 campuses. And I learned the most at Sun New Asia. Because, as you remember, Sun has a lot of world-class Chinese philosophers there. And I still remember one line by one of the scholars there, 錢穆先生, and he said, 一代人做一代事. Every generation has its challenges. So every generation, you will have special tasks for you. Now I see myself for the next maybe 10, 20, hopefully 30 years, 我呢一代嘅事咧就係 promote B Corp. And then I'd like you to think about, from your perspective, 一代人做一代事係咩咧? Okay, now may I introduce Michael, who will help me to introduce 2 of the speakers today. Michael Lawton is known as the father of social innovation in Europe. He has just assisted us in conducting the B Leaders course in Hong Kong. I'm very impressed by his work, by his insights. Michael.
Well, thank you, KK. As a young man, your sense of urgency is really important. With me, I have an even greater sense of urgency because the world is here for us to make a difference to. And one of the big drivers of change in the world is business and how it operates and what it does. So in the early 1980s, I got involved in introducing the concepts of corporate social responsibility into the UK. It's not enough. And over the years, it's become much more whitewashing and greenwashing, spending a small part of the company income through a department of the company. So there are 2 really interesting things. One is the B Corp movement, which is encouraging companies to operate in the world responsibly for a range of stakeholders. And the other is another program that I'm involved in called Business for Good, which focuses on what business can do in its business to address social issues. And both of these go in parallel, and we are trying to chart business for the 21st century, which will be different from business in the 20th century, and we can all see the results of that in the, for example, polluted land, water and air around us. Business has to be different, and the B Corp movement is one of the leaders of this change. It's a movement, it's a set of values for operating differently, but also a community of people who would like to use business as a force for good. And we will hear a lot about it. It's not about registration and ticking boxes. It is about how to use that process to enhance your business for the benefit of all the stakeholders. local communities where you operate, society more widely, employees, customers, and the public through better governance. So it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Alicia, from Melbourne, a city I absolutely love, one of the first cities in the world to be a bicycle city. And she was responsible for building the B Corp movement in Australia to, was it 200 or 300? Just 200. 300 next year, perhaps. And also now is the head of partnerships for the B Corp movement worldwide. So she's very central to how the B Corp will develop in the world, and particularly now she's here in this region, in the Southeast Asia region, where it is emerging in Taiwan, in mainland China, and here in Hong Kong. Alicia.
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to start by showing you a short video that was made to celebrate 10 years of B Corps in North America and globally. Yeah, it's just a 3-minute video. It should give you a sense of the energy. We didn't start at the beginning, though. Can we start at the beginning? Hi, my name's Alicia Darville and I'm the Executive Director of B Lab, not B Lab Australia, New Zealand. I am the Head of Global Relationships for B Lab. It's my utter pleasure to be here as a guest at the conference today. As you have detected as a continuing theme since the launch yesterday, KK's words, Michael's words, we are in a time of unprecedented change. The world is moving faster. We are all feeling a significant urgency for change. We know that the next generation, the millennials who are entering the workforce at a rapid pace, no longer just want to work for profit. They also want to work for a company that aligns with their values. They don't want to check their personalities at the door. They want to bring their whole selves to work. We know that investment is looking for long-term outcomes that are both positive for the economy and positive for the environment. We have seen this urgency and this desire for change, and we must all feel a part of it and want to contribute. And our role at B Lab is to find a way to create a meaningful change for all business. We believe that the role of government and not-for-profit is stupendously important to create the change we want to see in the world to solve the wicked problems, but that is not enough. Business must step up as well. And we believe that people using business as a force for good is one of the most fundamental changes of our time. It's got its own rhythm, never mind. And our B Lab approach to change, I'm sorry, bear with me just a second. B Lab's approach to systems change is to create a stepped approach through creating a community of leaders. These leaders, the certified B Corps, are the exemplars who we can tell stories about, who can create the change we want to see in the world. They, in turn, will work with us to create tools for change, changes like impact investment, changes like using the BIA, our tool, to measure their supply chains, changes like securing strong roles for these millennials who want to see the change in the world. They will, as a group, inspire billions of people to follow this business as a force for good. And as we grow the economy to a group of businesses that look after not only their stakeholders, but their shareholders, but also their stakeholders, we will create this shared and durable prosperity. We have started by creating a community of leaders. These B leaders, these B Corps, are growing globally in 67 countries. There are 2,300 B Corps around the world in 130 different industries, and they are all sharing one common goal, this desire to create a shared and durable prosperity for all. The B Corps are an extraordinary range of businesses. They range from subsidiaries of multinationals like Ben & Jerry's, to banks, to high-profile fashion labels like Elaine Fisher, to local small businesses, to multinational organisations like Plum Organic, Method, and also to small entrepreneurial type products that have grown in their own country, like Keep Cup in Australia, which is the reusable barista takeaway cup, and are now taking on the world as a purpose-driven company. And I wanted to start by giving you some examples of these B Corps. These B Corps are companies like Sendle. Sendle is an Australian company that was founded about 4 years ago and has already had both a Series A and a Series B investment of over $5 million. Sendle is post without the office. So they have created a courier company that goes from consumer to consumer. They have created a carbon neutral company by working with existing courier companies to fill up their vans from when they go back into their depots. So they take their deliveries out, then the sender fills them up with local parcels from the consumer's doorstep, and a consumer can pay to have a product or a parcel picked up at their office and taken across town for less than it costs to go to the post office. It is now, as well as having a flat rate of $10 around Australia, it is now going global. It's a really interesting company founded by an Australian who used to work for CSIRO. Many of us know Patagonia. They're a pin-up kid globally for environmental impact and the way private business can work to reduce its impact on the planet. Patagonia recently launched a new wetsuit line, and this wetsuit is made out of a plant called Urex, or a material called Urex, which is plant-based. And instead of, once they created and built this wetsuit, trialled it and took it to market, instead of creating a patent and owning the product, they released the patent and the material to the whole marketplace with the hope that all their competitors would also use this revolutionary plant-based material, which has a much lower impact. So they are trying to create a shared responsibility for their whole sector. Beyond Bank is a South Australian bank. It's the first retail bank to certify in Australia. They are a mutual, so it means that their shareholders are their customers. And they've really used the B Corp certification to tell their story as a mutual bank, where previously they were considered to be an interesting bank, but not one that was specifically purpose-driven, even though it was very much at their core because they're owned by their customers. Beyond Bank has recently won the CSR award at the Australian Retail Banking Awards, beating all the other major 4 banks in Australia, largely due to their B Corp certification, which has allowed them to really articulate their purpose to their stakeholders. These guys are some of the coolest kids in Silicon Valley. They're the founders of Kickstarter. Kickstarter, you may know, is a micro-donation platform, a crowdfunding platform, largely established for artists and musicians to crowdfund their first record. Kickstarter got so big that they were looming towards the unicorn type profile where one would expect to be acquired by investors in Silicon Valley. And the two of them sat down and took a deep breath and went, why did we start this company? We started it to support artists. We started it to create an alternative economy. We didn't start it to become billionaires, multi-millionaires. And so they stopped. They decided that they would remain privately owned, and they became a benefit company, therefore enshrining their purpose into their company's DNA and ultimately becoming a certified B Corporation, so they could signal to both investors and their marketplace that they were always going to stay true to their purpose, which was to create a platform for artists and musicians. They obviously sent massive ripples through Silicon Valley, who were thinking that they were going to be the next cashed up group of entrepreneurs, but they wanted to hold true to that purpose. One of my favourite B Corps, although of course we all have many, many favourites, is Method, who is a subsidiary or a partner in a group called People Against Dirty. And Method is widely sold throughout Asia and headquartered in Hong Kong in this region. Method has recently built a new factory in the south side of Chicago. The factory is built in a quite depressed area which used to be known for its industry, but no one had been investing in it for a long time. When they built this factory, it was the first new factory built in 30 years, and it employs only local people, so it's brought over 100 jobs back into that otherwise reasonably depressed region. What is compelling, I think, about this factory is not only that it's one of a few LEED star rating factories in the world and in North America, They have also taken in best practice with their solar trees and their wind turbine. But I think the thing I like most is they have put greenhouses on the top of their roof, and they grow salad vegetables for the surrounding cafes and restaurants because there's not enough opportunity for agriculture in in Chicago. I was thinking it might work for Hong Kong. Forgive me, a couple of steps ahead. The other thing that is completely compelling is there are no fences, so all the open space can be used by anyone in the region. And so I guess one of the messages in our urgency and in KK's thoughts this morning is how can we empower all businesses to be like a B Corp? How do we create this idea, as the US press have said, that the most dynamic way a new business can think, or an existing business can think, is to think about how they both embed their purpose and look after their stakeholders. So at B-Lab, we've developed a number of tools. We have an impact management tool, which is called the BIA, and you can all log on this afternoon. It's free and confidential, and you can check it out and see what you think. I think there are also many B leaders in this room who can also help you on that. There are over 60,000 users of the BIA. We have 100 plus partnerships with like-minded organisations all around the world who are promoting the BIA through Measure What Matters partnerships. We have also worked with a number of investment funds around the world, over 60, to rate their funds on their purpose and their return to their stakeholders. This is to give you a sense of how global the tool has become and how many businesses around the world are using it on a regular basis. I mentioned to you the Measure What Matters partnerships we have. These are some of the organisations we've partnered with to help them with either their business association or their funds to articulate the purpose in their organisation using the BIA and the tools to create improvement throughout their organisations. We've been working with the Conscious Capitalist. We have a relationship with the B team, Richard Branson's very articulate group about business change. The B team have a program called Born to Be, which helps new companies and existing companies to embed purpose, to think about their leadership in that space. The next, and perhaps the least sexy but the most exciting, is our desire to create a significant change in governance in organisations. Globally, we are working to create a new way of thinking about the company structure. And we believe that while the certification is essential to show that a company is walking the talk and not greenwashing, I sort of think of the certification as being a bit like a management tool. It sends a clear signal to the CEO and to his staff and her staff that they are actually really doing what they say they're doing. But really importantly, for companies to be able to thrive in the long term and look after their stakeholders long term, they need to be able to embed this change into their constitution. And this is done in the US through a tool called the Benefit Corporation. We've all mentioned it in passing. I can talk at length about corporations law, and it's a killer at a cocktail party. The Benefit Corporation essentially requires that you embed a general purpose into your constitution, that you expand your directors' duties to include both shareholders and stakeholders, and that you report annually on how you're meeting those obligations. And B Corp didn't really take off in North America until we passed this legislation in 34 states, including both Delaware and California. We are now working with 22 countries around the world, including Australia and Chile, to pass similar legislations and to understand to discuss with government the legal mechanism for these kinds of companies to really thrive. And as I mentioned, this is very much about how we believe we will move the company model from this 20th century focus on shareholder returns, where companies traditionally believed they needed to make as much money as possible, and then it was up to the shareholder to decide how they would spend their investment, whether it was through philanthropy or other ways. We believe that that's not enough. We believe that a company must make a markable change in everything they do through their supply chain, their hiring, and their governance. And so we believe this benefit corporation is a key way to make sure that a director sitting at the table can make a long-term decision. This becomes particularly significant at the point of change of control. So if you are a founder and you want to ultimately scale your company, at some stage you're likely to have to either take on partners, investors, or sell your company. And we want you to be able to make a decision as a founder to what the right path is based on the purpose of your company, and we believe this legal reform is essential for that. It's not only us that believe that this legal reform is a really important way of scaling the kind of companies we want to see in the world. Here's a group of global investors in B corporations, in benefit corporations, and you can see by the significant list that these are not small organisations, small funders, and they're not funders who are only looking for niche businesses. We've had billions of dollars invested in benefit corporations around the world. And as we come to the end, I guess I wanted to encourage you to really think about how you operate as a business, the kind of companies you want to work for, and to put pressure on organisations to ask them whether they're B Corps, to let them think about how they can really engage with their stakeholders. Because we believe to be able to create the shared and durable prosperity that our kids will be proud of and the next generation will be able to thrive in is going to be because we have made one of the absolute essential factors of success in the business is their return to their stakeholders and a clear articulation of their purpose. Thank you very much.
We noticed the letter B coming up quite a lot, and B leader, to me this is bleeder, and a bleeder is a disruptive force for change, but also be the change. And Mahatma Gandhi said you must be the change which you wish to see in the world. It's not just a matter of doing things, it's doing things with heart and with values and with passion and energy, and being part of that change movement. So not tick boxes, but being the change. I've had the privilege of having breakfast with Maria Emilia for the last 2 days, and I know she believes in these fundamental values behind the B Corp. And she's going to talk about the B Corp and the movement she's built up in Latin America through Sistema B. Maria Emilia.
So good morning. Is this working? Can you hear me? Good. Okay. So I want to start by thanking very much the organizers of this event that allowed me the pleasure of sharing some time, learning and sharing with you a little bit of what we do with Sistema B in Latin America. So Sistema B was created in 2012. This is not working, right? No, probably. Okay.
It's okay.
There. Now you can hear me. Now you can see me here because I am too small to stand behind that thing. So Sistema B was created in 2012 in Latin America by 4 friends, facing what KK and Michael have mentioned about the urgency, you know. I worked for 25 years in multinational corporations, and it got a point in my life when I realized that it was not enough to worry, that I really had to do something. So I decided to leave the corporate world and become an entrepreneur with a purpose. And I had the privilege to meet with 3 extraordinary friends, and we got together around, coffee in the kitchen in my house, thinking, what is it that we can do for, to give a legacy to the world, and we decided to create Sistema B. So Sistema B started with the idea of the need to change the economy, and we worked to build an economy where success is measured by the well-being of individuals, societies, and nature. So, not short of a systemic change. 4 friends with no resources, right? Which is like, okay, so how do you do that, So Sistema B is the story of pioneers who decide that we want to actually do something and not just worry about. We want to go from protest to proposal to action. And we like to feel that we are the movement of people doing something about this urgency that KK and Michael were sharing with us. So how do we, so we define, in order to do whatever we want to do, we have some shared values. We decided on what values we wanted to work. And we created a strategy mostly based on collaboration. Because for friends with no resources, we needed to learn to collaborate with many, because otherwise how are we going to affect systemic change? We believe that in order to change the economy, our acupuncture point, or point of entry to promote that systemic change is an invitation to business to become a force for good. Imagine what society and the world will look like when every economic decision we make, as consumers, as employers, as employees, when we buy, when we sell, when we hire, when every economic decision we make is a conscious decision to create positive impact. So imagine what the world and society can look like. That's the power of market put to the service of building a better world. So with that powerful image, we said, let's look for a tool to help business become a force for good. There are thousands, literally millions of people all around the world, but thousands in Latin America who want to do business in a way that solves social and environmental problems. It's just that we don't know necessarily how. So we found that the B Corp idea that was developed in the US in 2007 was extraordinary because it's a very robust and concrete tool that allows entrepreneurs to get their ideas into actions, to make their dreams become reality in a way that uses the market to create social and environmental solutions. So we had an agreement, we have an agreement with B Lab to use the B Corp idea, so we're promoting the B corporations in Latin America. In 5 years, we have 320 certified B corporations, but we also have 2,400 companies that are using the extraordinary tool that I absolutely recommend to anyone wanting to organize or to understand their social and environmental impact in business, which is the B Impact Assessment. It's a free tool online. Anyone can use it anytime, and it's amazing. It really helps you as an entrepreneur, as a business person, make sure that you are consistent with the purpose of creating social and environmental impact. But, to our wonderful surprise, we found that there are thousands of people in Latin America, mostly young people, but fortunate people, all ages, that find that entrepreneurship with a purpose makes sense. And we find extraordinary individuals. For example, one of the types of companies, besides of the many companies Alicia and our speakers yesterday have shared, I want to share with you an idea that has developed in Latin America in the last 15 years, which I think is extraordinary. It's called life regenerating business. Those are companies like Guayaquil, like Ecoflora, like Cultiva, like Viña Emiliana. You might be trying some wine, organic wine from Chile. It's a life regenerating company. These are companies that create business models that are financially very successful and that have as a purpose the regeneration of degraded ecosystems together with the communities that live on those ecosystems. So their measure of success is not just financial success, but the way that they regenerate degraded ecosystems. So 2017 has been a year that is amazing in terms of what we have seen in change in the weather and climate. Climate change is really a global phenomenon that is really hard all over the world. Life regenerating companies are companies that have been able to regenerate soil and people using the market as a leader for the solution. So it's market-led regeneration. So those are the kinds of companies that we're beginning to find in Latin America. But all these individuals who are extraordinary entrepreneurs, one of the things we always need when we are starting this kind of business is to find that we are not the only crazy people, because finding that there are many others who share this view with you is really a source of, first, of happiness, because you can share and you can learn from others, but there is also the possibility of creating a community to advance ideas together with many other people. So we are promoting what we call B markets. markets where success is measured in terms of well-being for people and planet. And we are also promoting what we call a favorable ecosystem for a new economy. We're passing laws to promote big corporations, but we also have programs like Cities Plus B, where B entrepreneurs and businesses with a purpose and academia and investors get together with municipalities to think about how to create resilience in business in cities in order to deal with the issues around climate change. We have that program, Cities Plus B, in Rio de Janeiro, Santiago, Medellin, Mendoza, and Argentina. We also have are beginning to work with academia, because there is no way we can change the economy unless we change the way we teach about business. I always say that I am shocked when I see that people going into business schools and into law schools to learn the same things that their grandparents learned 50 years ago. It cannot be like that. You know, we need to be able to offer to the young generation new ways to learn about how to do business and to prepare themselves for the world that needs business as a force for good. So, as we are working around systemic change, our agenda and our goals are described in a circular fashion. And what has happened in 5 years in Latin America is that from 4 friends having coffee, we have been able to create Sistemas B organizations promoting these ideas in 10 countries, but also in 12 cities. We encourage communities and people wherever to organize themselves with friends, with others, in order to promote a new economy in wherever community they live. We are very proud to be a part of the global movement that Alicia mentioned. And I wanted to bring an anecdote of something that has worked I think, in a very successful way. Some years ago, we met with the people from Bancolombia, the largest commercial bank in Colombia. It has operations in 6 countries and is the 2nd or 3rd largest commercial bank in Latin America. They, with many conversations, we realized that for them, using the B Impact Assessment tool, which I say is free for anyone on the website, they were able to integrate social and environmental management in their supply chain, working with their suppliers. So today, in order to be a supplier of the bank, you go into their website, you register, and the first thing that you have to do is to take the B Impact Assessment. So now the bank has the possibility to understand their value chain, both their suppliers and their small and medium-sized companies who are their customers, to value the way their customers are managing social and environmental issues. The bank is also able to develop new financial products for these new types of corporations. And they have been able to do something that is extraordinary, is to invite their customers to innovate in businesses that solve social and environmental problems. Bancolombia is not a certified B Corporation, and they are not requesting any of the companies that they ask to take the B Impact Assessment to become a certified B Corporation. The invitation here is only to measure your social and environmental impact in order to improve. So what learnings can we share from these 5 years in Sistema B? First, I think that what we have achieved is something that I think is very significant, is to scale the impact without enlarging the organization. And that is basically because we work upon the concept of collaboration. Instead of us trying to do everything, we collaborate with many who are interested and share our ideas and our vision. We have been able to build a collective identity. So entrepreneurs around Latin America, but also everyone who's interested in building a new economy, academics, investors, media, public policy experts, politicians, everyone can become part of a movement that shares a collective identity. And we can work in any role that we have, as citizens, as consumers, as parents, as teachers in order to build the world where we want to live. I think that we have been successful as well in installing a new concept. When we started 5 years ago, we started talking about business as a force for good, and people were looking at us like these people are crazy, because at the moment we had the idea of social entrepreneurship, which was not necessarily oriented towards profit making. So people said, if there's a profit motive, we're not so sure about the public motivation, the public good motivation. And on the other side, people say, if you're not making profit, this idea of public good is not necessarily the way to advance business. So what we have been able to achieve in these 5 years is to install the concept that businesses with a profit motivation can be a source of public goods, can be a source of solutions for social environmental problems. So, I don't know, 20 years ago there was a polluted river and we would say, get the government to get a treatment plant. Or let's create a foundation to help clean the river, right? Now we say, let's create a business that is a viable, financially viable and successfully financially viable business that solves social and environmental problems. So what do we want to leave to the world in 2026? We hope to have hundreds of Sistemas Bs all around Latin America, thousands of B Corps acting on their own and collaborating with many, thousands of benefit and collective interest companies as well, countless solutions to social, environmental, and cultural problems coming from and using the market, thousands of companies working around a higher purpose, and millions of consumers and citizens who are aware that every economic decision that we take in the market is a vote for the kind of economy that we want. We want to have millions, hopefully, of communities, local and international communities, working around a purpose of building the world we want. We want to promote, and we are promoting business practices. Not only you need companies that act in a certain way, but we need trade missions. We need international value chains that build a better world. Chambers of commerce and industry that work to promote the purpose, the common purpose of a world which is good for nature and society. Schools and universities teaching about the new economy, research to understand the scale of how we can make this movement respond to the need of urgency that we all share. We need to go from fragmented systems to responsibility and integrity. We have this absurd and fictional separation in our minds between who we are and how we act in the economy, between the ecology and the economy, between ethics and the economy. I think we need to go back and realize that the way we make economic decisions is what builds the world in which we live. So we need to be integral in who we want to be and how we want to act. And just to finish, I want to share something that happened a couple of weeks ago that was a surprise for all of us, that it has us very happy. There was a trust analysis in Chile, and Chile normally had, the citizens in Chile had normally a great deal of trust in the army or police forces and so on for the first year ever. B corporations are the most trusted institution in the country, which is a great responsibility, I have to say. So we see Sistema B as a gift from Latin America to the world. And can you help me do this video? I want to leave you with a video of a festival that we started 4 years ago called the International Social Innovation International Festival, FIS. Can we have? Okay, you're missing great music, but you can download it whenever you want. Thank you so much. So you're all invited to feast. It happens once a year. Today it is happening in 14 cities around Latin America, and to our greatest happiness, it is also happening in Amsterdam and Los Angeles. It's an idea that came from Latin America. The invitation is for everyone who wants to change the world, who want to make the world a better place for all. Today, with the sense of urgency we all share, but to share this idea with happiness, with music, dancing, with friends, with a little beer maybe as well, you know? So we can move the world to the direction we want to see in collaboration with friends and happiness. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. Now you know why we need this urgency. In Hong Kong, we're too slow. But things are changing. Things are changing. Now, the next speaker is Mr. Ng Thiên Hoi先生, and we will switch to Cantonese as well. Now, Mr. Ng is very famous in Hong Kong. Among other titles, important posts, he is the chairman of the Wharf Companies, 九龍倉主席. He's also the chairman of the General Chamber of Commerce, the largest business organization in Hong Kong. And he has been the leader in doing something amazing for the business to initiate and collaborate with other businesses. So let us hear from Mr. Ng. Mr. Ng.
Thank you. The audience, maybe I'll stay in English, if you don't mind. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The speakers before me, and together with the facilitators, they are thought leaders. They are leaders of a formal, organized movement to lead business in a new direction. And the comments I've heard from them are very inspiring. I am an amateur. Most businesses in Hong Kong are amateurs in movements of this nature. So we have a great deal to learn from them. And today what I would like to do is to share with you from the perspective of local business what we do to contribute to the world. Not nearly in a way as structured as the B movement is. One day we'll get there. And reflecting on what Michael was saying earlier, some businesses tick boxes for compliance purposes. What is more important for business is to do this from their heart. And that is what a lot of businesses in Hong Kong do. They undertake social activities or activities to benefit society from their heart. And of course, the spectrum is very, very wide for most of these businesses. Today, I would only like to share with you a couple of examples to focus on the students in Hong Kong. Now, students are the future. They are the future of Hong Kong. And also, they are the future for business. And that is why I've picked the student group as for examples today. By way of background, the Hong Kong General Chamber of Commerce, in short HKGCC, is the longest established and largest, most dynamic, and most international business organization in Hong Kong. Collectively, our membership employs, employs nearly 1/3 of the workforce in Hong Kong, and we include over half of the blue chip listed companies in Hong Kong. Our membership ranges from very large multinational organizations to innovative startups. The Chamber has been actively and heavily involved in making Hong Kong a better place for business as well as for the wider population for 156 years. We also engage our members to collaborate in community projects with us or to run their own. A long-standing program is the Business School Partnership Program. The program provides a platform for direct interaction between students and businesses through company visits, leadership talks, interviews, workshops, internships, and so on. We have helped over 10,000 students gain relevant job skills, business knowledge, and exposure so that they can feel more confident when they enter the job market. Youngsters, as I said, are our future. If they do well, society will do well. Now, back to Wharf, the company I work for, the company who pays me. We firmly believe in and we actively promote what we call BIC, Business in Community. For a long time, business was worked outside of the community, and there was increasingly developing a rift between business and the rest of the community. So several years ago, we decided we need to be in the community. We need to get inside the community. And a flagship BIC project we participate in is what is called Project We Can, in Cantonese, 學校起動計劃. Since 2011, this project has helped nearly 100,000 students in Hong Kong from 53 secondary schools which are in need of resources to better prepare themselves for career challenges when they leave school. What is Project Weekend? Employers today look for employees who have not only mastered core subjects, but who are flexible, who can deal with change maturely, and who can learn new skills by themselves. What can we do as a business to help develop the adults of tomorrow, to equip them to cater to the needs of the fast-changing world? And in Hong Kong, as a statistic that some of you may not know, only 20% of graduating secondary school students go on to university every year. And for the weakest schools, the group that we cater to, that number falls to 1%. 99 out of 100 students who graduate from the 53 weakest schools in Hong Kong that we work with go on to university. Then what about the other 99 who don't? Worse still, the current scores-oriented education system and the push-on tests are not helping them. The curriculum is designed for students to go to university, and many of the 99 students who do not, they're not of academically, they're not of university material, and they fail the curriculum from early stage, and they're branded failures. It is highly demoralizing for them, and they lose confidence in themselves. So what the Project Weekend intends to do is to bring them back to society rather than leaving them out as rejects. The project started 6 years ago, initially with 11 schools, supported by 11 business partners. Each partner would adopt a school, so to speak, to provide financial, but more importantly, people support. What we do is we help students to open their eyes, to open their minds, and to open their hearts to opportunities. Exposure is important for young people. We were young at one point in time, and we all remember how exposure helped us in developing our eventual career. So we help these students to gain confidence, to improve language skills, and to prepare for jobs and careers. These students may not be scholars, but many of them make excellent inventors, technicians, artists, performers, or entrepreneurs. For the few of them who go on to university, the 1% that I was referring to, we reward them and we motivate them. So now we have 53 schools in the project and 45 business and other supporting organizations. They represent a diverse range of nationalities, and they come from a diverse range of industries, including banks, insurance companies, properties, retail, accounting, healthcare, consulates, universities, and even hospitals. 1/3 of Hong Kong's least privileged secondary school students and over 50,000 students are covered each year. So these are just some examples of the work that the Hong Kong General Chamber of Commerce and the company I work for, the Wharf Company, do. The business sector and thousands of others are doing their respective parts, trying to address different social needs on a day-to-day basis to make Hong Kong a better place for all of us. Now, in recent years, the Hong Kong business sector and the rest of the community seem to have drifted apart. Some sectors of the community have come to distrust business. And this may be happening in other parts of the world as well, possibly due to inadequate engagement. We need to get out more to engage and bridge the business sector with the community instead. And hence BIC, Business in Community. We would actually take it further than BIC. We encourage other ICs, citizens in community, professionals in community, retirees in community, universities in community, students in community, consulates in community. 3 consulates, for instance, participate in Project Weekend. They are the French consulate, they are the American consulate, and the Swiss consulate. And we welcome others to join us. Everyone can do something to help and share and to assist these young people in becoming the better future of Hong Kong. At the end of the day, in B Corp's term, of which I am an amateur, as I come back to insist, we hope these young people will not only compete to be the best in the world, but the best for the world. The economic climate is ripe for us to take a serious look at the B Corp's concept. The economy is doing well in Hong Kong, inflation is tame, and people feel good. Consumers are spending, and businesses feel good. Looking ahead, there are additional opportunities for business in Hong Kong in the form of the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Bay area and the Belt and Road initiatives. We have plenty of opportunities. And a more immediate event is the upcoming signing of a free trade agreement with ASEAN later this month. So the time has passed to merely preach for a shared vision. We must show strong determination for everyone in the community to do their part. With a highly educated population, Hong Kong citizens are placing more emphasis on social consciousness than ever before. Studies show that millennials put more weight on seeking employment at corporations that benefit society and the world. In the good old days, the formula for business value profit chain was happy employees, happy customers, and happy shareholders. Today, I would add a happy society in front of the other 3 happies. I'm eager to learn more from the experts in this area and how B Corp can help businesses, help society, and the environment. But before I sign off, please allow me for a 60-second advertisement for Project Weekend. Project Weekend is recruiting 22 new schools to increase the total to 75 schools when the next school year starts in next September. At the same time, we are recruiting 22 new business partners. So for businesses in the audience, if you are interested, please contact me. Please talk to me. For non-businesses, if you have interest in participating in this program, in other means, in your personal capacity, please also contact me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ng. Very impressive. I'm sure most of us in the audience might not have heard about this, may not be aware that some businesses are doing such great things for local community. Mr. Ng also highlighted the fact that they're working primarily with weaker schools, schools that need the most help, schools where 99% of the students might not have a chance to go into university. So I'm very happy, and I'm sure under Mr. Ng's leadership, more and more corporations will contribute, will join the movement. Now, we are going to have a panel discussion. We will invite the speakers and moderator to come up, and also one very special guest from China, Mr. Jeff Shum. I'll invite him to the stage shortly. But let me say something about China. Now, you are aware of my sense of urgency. Maybe you think that we need to do a lot in Hong Kong. Yes, definitely. In Hong Kong, we have a lot to do. But there's even greater things, more important things, on a much larger scale in China. And we are part of China, and we could all contribute to it. Mr. Ng just now mentioned 大灣區啊. In English, it is very long. Guangdong, Macau, Hong Kong, Bay Area. Let's refer to it in short, Bay Area. 香港、澳門、整個廣東省, already huge area. Now, previously, in my last 10 years, I kept a close eye on development in China. But China is so big. I sometimes went to Beijing, Shanghai, Chengdu, and so on, trying to contribute whatever I can. But now, with the Bay Area idea, I think we could specifically target this area to leverage Hong Kong's expertise, experience, aspirations. It's within easy travel distance. Anyway, may I invite the speakers and Mr. Shum on stage. Mr. Shum, would you like to say in English or in Bourgeois for candidates?
Yeah, I just put this with me because actually I saw a detail that when people say that Mr. Ng is going to speak in Cantonese, my colleague just go out and fetch this for her because she cannot speak in Cantonese. But actually when Mr. Ng speaking English, actually no one use headset in this room. No one. But our interpreter there, they speak really good Chinese Mandarin and Cantonese. I went there to listen to them, but no one actually in the room uses headset. So this actually tells us something, that lots of Chinese here, they're ready. They speak English, they're ready for globalization, and here. And see the Westerns, maybe they are not so ready to learn Mandarin, or Chinese Mandarin, or Taiwanese Mandarin, or Cantonese there. So when we in a debate about globalization, that's actually the challenge. Who is ready, who are not ready so much. That's my speech for the beginning. Thank you.
Okay, now I will leave Michael to moderate the discussion, but Mr. Sun, actually he is from a major foundation in China, Leping Foundation, Leping 基金會啊. Would you like to share with us a little bit about Leping Foundation and what is its approach to B Corp?
Thanks for another 2 minutes. So Leping is a foundation mostly focused on impact investing and social enterprise and all.
Impact investing, okay.
All so-called benefit corporations in China. Now we move all the efforts in social enterprise to benefit corporations, especially B Corp in China. Another portfolio for us is to be the great knowledge center in China. So we are the publisher for Stanford Social Innovation Review and other publications. We want to set up a knowledge community for people in the society. All the stakeholders, they can have debate stage for them to create new knowledge and share them. So basically, we hold up a very big portfolio for social enterprise in China, and also we want to make it happen that people can now create their local theory and local ideas about social innovation in those emerging economics. So that's generally what we are
Okay,
doing.
basically, Leping Foundation is a think and do tank in China. And we work very close together, and they're very supportive of the Hong Kong B Corp movement because they are promoting B Corp in China as well. And we think we can learn from each other. This evening, starting from 6:30, there will be a B Corp party sponsored by Leping Foundation to be held nearby here. If you are interested, let our staff know. Okay, Michael, to you.
It's working. I just wanted to ask Jeff about the B Corp movement in China and whether Chinese characteristics might become a part of it. To what extent is this an American movement spreading around the world, or a movement which is going to rise up in China in parallel with the business culture in the Greater China region? And maybe Mr. Ng can comment on that as well.
Thank you. So I think China's big government is inspired by the Latin Americans' great ideas and dancing the beer and others. But actually, China's business actually begin with Hong Kong. Actually, I think the modern business in the past 40 years, right? So we started with Hong Kong. Hong Kong used to be the window of China, especially for Chinese business people. But since it's already 40 years, and 40 years is not a short time in one people's lifetime, but short in the history maybe. But thanks to the efforts, I think now China is the second economy in the world. And thinking about China now, rather to think about China from Asian Pacific or Indian Pacific or emerging economic perspective, not China only. So China is a part of the globalization, and China is now somehow one of the leaders of the globalization. So it's not very specific. And thanks to Alicia and her colleagues in Australia and globally, I think China is also learning from how the B Corp movement is. And I think this is actually because we do the global business, so we are not doing a China business. Think about One Belt, One Road and other things. China is not a world factory anymore only, but we are doing world business. So you must be a part of them, and think about your number two, you must be one of the leaderships. And so for the past 1 year, we have been there for engage a lot of stakeholders from those investors like Superior, GVC and others, from lots of really good business people in Zhejiang province, Guangdong province and others. So it's quite welcome. But one question comes up to us is what's our contribution there for the next 10 years. Yesterday, I think we got a question from the audience that why 10 years and only 2,000 plus B Corps? And think about China. I'm thinking about here this morning is in 10 years, can we have 1 million Chinese companies there through their BRA? And at least 2% of them, at least 20% of them, actually they pass somehow B Corp. Think about China, you think boundary, you think wrong, and you think bigger.
Thank you. We're going to be hearing from 2 Chinese B Corps later in today, and I think that will be inspiring as well.
My perception is this. In many ways, China is not too different from the rest of the world, where there are traditional businesses and there are new businesses. My perception is in most parts of the world, the traditional businesses tend to be slower in the take-up of B Corp, whereas the new businesses, the younger people, would tend to be early adopters. The main difference, however, between China and the rest of the world, in my perception, is that there are many more new businesses proportionately compared to Europe or North America. So because of the relatively higher proportion of new businesses and younger people getting or starting businesses, I actually see China being a more attractive place for the movement than old economy. And I hope I'm right.
Yeah. So before opening up to questions from the audience, I want to ask Alicia about the idea that once you register as a B Corp, it's a platform to build on to improve your company. Can you give us one or two examples?
Absolutely. I think. Am I? Thanks. Absolutely. The impact assessment is a really strong tool for improving your business. What we tend to find is that the first year a company certifies, the certification is led by a founder or an entrepreneur. And they carry the space and they get all the documents together and they really understand their business. But in order for businesses to really thrive in the first year of becoming a B Corp, they spend a lot of time embedding it into their organization. They create B Corp committees and then tend to work together to recertify so that it becomes a tool for innovation for a company to increase their score from year to year. And we've had really good examples in Australia of quite traditional businesses. There's a 100-year-old law firm called Harwood Andrews that for the first time in their entire business history, they brought all their staff together over their 3 offices. They downed tools for the day, and they spent the day doing a hackathon, which is a relatively modern term for a traditional business. And that hackathon, they used the impact assessment as a tool to think about how they could improve their business. And everybody was encouraged to come up with ideas. And it increased the number of pro bono hours they were doing in a much more strategic way. They went paperless in their office. They reconsidered their energy use. And they really increased their score by about 10 points.
And do you highlight these improvements to the public in your communications?
We do. We often leave it to the company to tell their stories. We have worked globally on a new platform called Be the Change, which is hosted on Medium, and I encourage you to look it up on the Medium platform. It tells great stories about the impact of B Corps around the world.
So, Maria Emilio, you talked about beer and parties and dancing and music and fun, and building a community of people who enjoy changing the world in this way together. Can you say something about that?
Yes, thank you so much. But I also would like, if it's okay, to follow on what you were talking about. You know, I come to China inspired because we have seen in China, we are learning from China, all these, the new companies, the unicorns that we're seeing happening in China. Now, everyone is looking at what is happening in China. We all want to be like you and we want to learn from you. So imagine, in few years, if you would have the unicorns of this world in solving social and environmental issues. I think we're all looking for leadership in China in that sense, you know, for you to show us the way. You are showing us the way on how to create these incredibly successful businesses that grow so large in such a short time. Imagine if that same idea is put to the service of solving the problems of the world. So I'm here waiting to see the unicorns of solving the problems of the world. So that's my you know, I hope to learn from China and hope you come to Latin America and work with us to help us do the same things that you're doing here. So I'd say that the most important message I would like to leave is the message of collaboration. You know, the message of we have to go from this economy of competition that, you know, that we think that only the individual can win, to a new idea that really builds a world in where we can work together to create a world that is better for all. So I would say that if I think that something is fundamental for all of us to learn is to collaborate and not compete. we compete in the market, but we can also create ways to do things that are good for all through the market.
Okay, can I open this up now? Not just to questions. I mean, it's not a matter of experts sitting up here with all the knowledge. The knowledge is actually spread around everyone in the world, both as business owners and business leaders, as customers and consumers, as thought leaders. We all have a role to play. So if you want to say something, rather than just ask a question, don't make it too long, but feel free to contribute to the discussion. There are 2 more sessions today, so we will be looking at the B Corp idea in practice much more. So we're looking more or less at the general ideas and values and purpose of the B Corp movement in this session.
Okay, I'm sure you will have ideas to share with us. Yes, Ringo. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Ringo, so I'm a student of KK's. So I know B Corp for the past 3 years, so I've been doing some kind of research. And I would like to share and would like to get the latest update from the professionals on the stage is that seems at the moment it is still for the B Corp movement is like a behavioral change at the moment, okay, to educate the consumer, the general public, as well as the government and big corporation. But from our industrial kind of experience, I think the most effective way to really push a movement is a driving force from the market. For example, like the forest protection, the marine conservation, those major corporations, the Walmart, the Target, the Home Depot, are on board with this kind of movement. Then all the manufacturers, supplier, the logistic will be followed. So in that respect, is there any kind of action or anything is working in such direction?
Thank you. Yeah, looking for some levers.
Absolutely,
Yes.
you're 100% right that the levers lie in things like procurement. I think that one of the best examples is the Bank of Colombia example that Mary Amelia gave. We work with a lot of organisations to ask them to make requests of their supply chain. So Ben & Jerry's have asked their whole supply chain to go through the impact assessment. There are multiple examples of clusters of B Corps coming together because they supply each other. One of the most compelling is Patagonia worked with what's the huge company in America? Patagonia and Walmart work together on supply chains. And so we very much at B Lab support the companies to be leaders, and in their sector there is currently a huge campaign coming together led by the fast-moving consumer good B Corps who have together pulled some money, this is in North America, to gain research to understand what the consumer knows about B Corps. Based on that research, they are hiring an ad agency and creating a large consumer-based campaign. So B Lab, we stand behind the companies and encourage them to create the change they want to see. So we don't see that our role is unique in one sector because we cover over 130 different industries, but what we try and do is support initiatives through that are led by the B Corps with increasing success.
Yeah, you respond to your question. Maybe I'd like to ask Georgie from the UK to share the experience of 20 or 30 popular brands coming together. Yeah. You like to share with us? Georgie is leading a stand-up.
Hi, I'm Georgie. I work for B Lab UK, which is growing the B Corp movement in the UK, and I've been helping KK run the B Leaders program here in Hong Kong. What KK referred to is we have increasingly seen appetite from our fast-moving consumer goods brands and our B Corp fast-moving consumer goods to raise public awareness of what B Corp is across the UK. And they are a very feisty group of companies and they have a really loud voice, and so they've decided to come together and do a joint public consumer campaign over the rest of this year and 2018. That's really exciting for us because a huge, as Alicia said, a huge lever for change is public awareness, is educating consumers to know that exactly as Maria Amelia said, every pound that you spend is a vote for the sort of economy that you want. So the more that consumers know about B Corps and can buy from B Corps, or can work for a B Corp, or can invest in a B Corp, the stronger our movement becomes. So we're really excited by the energy and the passion that our consumer goods brands have shown in the UK, and that's going to be really exciting.
How many of you?
There are 18 of them, and they range from everything from a small consumer goods, which is more of a startup, all the way up to a big multinational company, which I actually saw in a supermarket here, which was Ella's Kitchen, which is the baby food brand in the pouches. So, and they all cater to different markets, but really getting the message to resonate with consumers across the UK.
And to say they were heavily influenced, all were heavily influenced by a group of brands who created a partnership at the American Champions Retreat about 4 years ago and lobbied Whole Foods to create a B Corp Awareness Week. So Whole Foods holds an annual week now in, I think, September, where they brand all the aisles for B Corps. So it's very much led by business. One of the great pleasures of working with B Corps is that we predominantly work with entrepreneurs.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Sorry. Yeah.
I just want to highlight three things. First of all, a concept that's easy to understand that resonates with the public mood of the time. Secondly, people coming together to do things together, which is more powerful than trying to do things individually, and this idea of collaboration. And thirdly, the challenge for the future, which is that you don't just rest on your laurels. This is the gateway, you're registered B Corp, but it's a process of continuing change. And I'd like to just compare it with the fair trade movement. What happens with fair trade when Starbucks buys fair trade coffee? It's a success, but it poses another challenge that we have to then stretch the public to do even better and even more. And I think the same is true with B Corps.
Thank you. I saw two hands. Three. Okay, one by one. 5 or 5. Anyway, we have only 6 more minutes. Okay, this ladies first.
Hi, this is Ariana from Fleximum. Actually, Fleximum is a startup company helping to promote flexibility work arrangement in Hong Kong's companies. You mentioned that, Alicia mentioned that the new generation or the millennials are more interested to work for companies that has certain values. Is the BIA assessment count flexibility in work a criteria for to become a B Corp corporation? And what are the other important criteria in a BIA assessment? I would like to learn a little bit more about it. Thank you.
I think there are about a dozen experts who are more articulate on the BIA in the room than I am, but yeah, absolutely. So the BIA is made up of 200 possible points. You need to get 80 points to certify. A big piece of that is how you treat your workers and your flexibility for workers. One of my favourite questions is the ratio between the highest paid staff member and the lowest, and there is a mark for that. There's also a mark for your paternity leave policy or whistleblower policy, green energy. So there's a wide range. There's 78 versions of the impact assessment depending on the style of company you have, and it is tailored definitely to the impact you have on your workers. It's my favourite part. I think businesses can only thrive if they take their workers with them.
Yeah. Okay. Now, in the interest of time,
why don't we get everyone? Yes.
We hear all the questions. Please.
Yeah, just a short question. My name is Steven Zhang. I'm currently doing consulting work for Hong Kong Youth for the fund. But anyway, as you can see, the Hang Seng Index has just hit basically all-time high, as well as the FTSE, as well as the Dow Jones. Everything is going really well. Are you guys anticipating any kind of pullback in this movement if interest rates rise, or with the business economy, moving? Are you anticipating by having any kind of mechanism to help companies who have invested in this movement, so that therefore it can sort of spread the risk in that sense.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, yes. 你三位都有啊。One by one，你最遠嘅俾你講先。好。
Hello, good morning, everyone. This is Chloe from B Lab Taiwan.
Okay,
we are
welcome.
promoting B Corp movement in Taiwan. Now we have 21 B Corps, out of 65 in Asia. And we just celebrate the first #1 B Corp listed bank in Taiwan, O Bank. And we just heard Alicia sharing about Australia and Maria about Latin America. And I'm wondering, Jeff, how would you envision B Corp movement would unfold in China? Are you thinking of building something like ecosystem as well, and how would it be? Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, please.
Hi, my name is Chen. I'm from AVPN, which is a membership-based network. We're actually expanding now in Hong Kong, and we're also going to China. And actually, just resonate to what Katie just mentioned. I quit my investment banking job for this career this September. So I'm really happy to join all of you guys here, and I want to contribute to a better world. So my question is, actually, I know a lot of employees in a company is very interested to do something for B Corp, but maybe the founder themselves are not really aware how to do it. So in that situation, what is your advice that employees should be doing in order to really promote the B Corp idea? Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Yes.
I'm a reporter of China, and I have 2 questions. One for KK.
Okay.
我講廣東話問你，即係 KK 你就係叫做係香港社企之父，我哋咁會認為。咁而家喺 B Corp 我睇下呢個場咧，我哋都係講緊 B Corp。咁係咪 B Corp 喺香港嚟講，佢已經成為一個社企方面發展嘅主流咧？同樣咧，我想睇下 KK 咪幫我可以翻譯下問翻阿 Michael 嘅。佢喺英國喺度推社企呢個概念咧，係相當多年嘅。咁佢又點睇呢個 B Corp 嘅 movement 咧？
Okay. Very briefly. Now your question to me, I will answer you during the break. But you have a question for Michael. Michael, he want to ask you. You have been promoting social enterprises for a long time. He would like to know why you are changing it to B Corp. Okay. Okay. Other questions? One here and over there.
With so many, my name is K.O. Chia from Grace Financial Family Office here in Hong Kong. My question is, with how does B Corp fit into UN SDP, SDG, GIN network, SROI, and all those other acronyms that are being thrown out there. So it's getting to be to a point of a lot of confusion rather than cohesion or integration. So please share some light on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, one more over there.
Hi, my name is Freddie. I used to work in a Silicon Valley company, Google to be exactly. I love Bay Area, and then I'm actually very excited about Guangdong, Macau, Hong Kong, Bay Area. And then about B Corp. KK has one student that become the first Shenzhen B Corp, the latest one in China, that is doing web accessibility. And they have done, basically, they have 6 blind software engineers that they can code without looking at it. And they do a rough research on the Hong Kong blue chip companies that is related to Stephen, that some of them are not web accessible in most of their websites and products and the app. So it become very interesting for Hong Kong business to look at the technology leaders, China, to see how it could make sense in this mega Bay Area, that it can cooperate in terms of technology and B Corp. So my question to you is what Hong Kong's role can facilitate this kind of exchange in terms of the future and B Corp?
Yeah, I'd like to ask each of our panel to answer one question of their choice.
So I come back to the question about how we do it in China. I think basically 3 ideas. One thing is we just engage those driving force in China for those benefit corporations or business for good, engage the young people, engage the population change, engage the new trade of technology, and engage, as you said, new business. So that's the one approach we do in China. So engage all those driving force there, listen to them and work with them and nurture the community and then move on. The second one is we work with KK, Alicia, and Maria, and as we learn from globally, and we work globally. And then, because this is actually the advantage of China, because we are at the back position, so we can learn from all those people who have a lot of experience, like Alicia in Australia, lots of experience, how from 0 to 200. Then the last thing is, I think we still need to think long, think bigger, think boundary. We're thinking about how in 10 years, when we sign the contract with B Lab, then we can move on to like 2% of our GDP. That's half of our budget for education for the whole nation. And how we can move like a million BIA assessment there. So I think China should think about like someone that you are going to be the #1 economy in 10 or 15 years. You must take this responsibility. It's not only an honor, it's a duty. The last thing we will think about is I think you can rely on lots of unpredictable things. So enjoy your life, keep calm, don't worry.
Let me address Freddie's question. We preach to students to promote the idea of, we ask them to open their eyes, open their minds, and open their hearts to new opportunities and to new things. The answer to your question is cultural change. We need cultural change. We're promoting cultural change among the students. We need to promote cultural change among Hong Kong businesses as well. 40 years ago, Hong Kong business was way ahead of the rest of China. 40 years later, today, in many areas, we are actually quite behind. So that's where we can learn a great deal from our friends across the border.
So I want to address the question of employees promoting the idea of B Corps. I think that one of the lessons in my life has been that I didn't realize how many people inside business are looking for ways to act with a purpose. It's just that we don't have the spaces in companies to speak about these topics. And I remember, I was telling, I think, Michael, that I think I decided to leave the corporate world once that we were having an extraordinary conversation about the shared preoccupation about climate change and poverty with the members of the board. And we went into the board meeting proper after 2 hours of very interesting conversation, and the same people who had been talking about these issues with knowledge, interest, compromise and all that, and purpose, we sat around the table when the board meeting began, and I said, so let's keep on thinking about how this company is going to support our ideas regarding climate change and poverty. And everyone around the table said, no, Maria Emilia, this is not the topics for business. This is business. When we are in a board meeting, we talk about business. Business is financial issues. So all those issues that are interest for you, you talk about them in the foundation or Saturdays or anyway after 6 o'clock. So I think that it is amazing to find that many individuals, literally thousands of millions of individuals inside businesses, we are looking for ways to connect our values, our vision, our desire to be a better world, a better source for the world, but we don't know how to do it. And I think that one of the most fascinating things of the B Corps is that they are a robust and concrete, usable tool to get these ideas into business actions that can also translate into financial results. So don't be afraid, because probably a lot of people inside your company are going to be interested. Just bring up the conversation, because you're being surrounded by people who are interested, and many people around the world demonstrate that people in business are interested in becoming a force for good.
Just to follow on from Mary Amelia, I also am a big fan of finding the companies around the world that are B Corps that are most relatable to your CEO, just sending a couple of quiet emails of articles and of influencers that they are that they admire and helping to start the conversation. I'm a big fan of seeding the conversation by using existing entrepreneurs as leaders. There are lots of questions, and I'm looking forward to meeting many of you at drinks tonight and having longer conversations. I think the one about the financial one, if I understand it, it was fascinating. My understanding is that, or the research is showing compelling evidence that to invest in a B Corp type company is actually a financial advantage. And time again, research is showing that you're actually mitigating risk by investing in companies that have strong ESG. So I would actually think that the investment in B Corps and benefit corporations, as the market strengthens, should continue to grow as investors are wary of stranded assets and be putting their money in old style businesses. New style businesses disappear very quickly, but to be able to find a company that has robust governance and stakeholder engagement, I think actually makes a financially compelling outcome. And just to finish, I mean, you only need to look at the number of companies that are B Corps that are being acquired by multinationals. Most recently, Seventh Generation was bought by Unilever. I think you'll see Natura just bought the Body Shop. So there's an extraordinary scale that is happening through acquisition as well.
Thank you. I'm not a millennial, I'm a war baby. And, when I quit my job at the same sort of age as the lady there did, we were talking about exactly the same things as we're talking about now. In fact, there was an index of the 100 best companies to work for, and many of those could have been B Corps. So it is a continual journey to change the world, and it's values-based. And the question about social enterprise is about setting up businesses with a specific purpose of changing the world through what they do. And they balance social impact and financial viability, maybe even profit. What we're talking about is an inclusive economy where everyone, wherever they are, big business, small business, startup business, sole traders, individuals, customers, can play a part in an economic movement to change the world. There may be a lot of confusion between the different terms, business for good, B Corp, social enterprise, etc., etc. But the values underpinning them are the same, and you need to select where you want to operate, what you want to do, and find the right partners to do it and the right networks to do it. So don't be confused by all these different things that are happening. Celebrate them, because it's a part of a movement that is creating a different approach to changing the world, not through philanthropy, not through corporate social responsibility, but through consumerism and business, which as a proportion of the total economy is so much more powerful than the marginal things we've been trying to do in the past. So can I hand over to KK just to conclude?
Thank you. Rebecca, would you like to say something about the B Corp party this evening? Where will it be, in case anyone will be interested?
Thank you. Just a very quick word about the B Corp party. It's okay. The B Corp party this evening, because since we have so many B Corps gathering together in Hong Kong, and with Alicia and Maria coming from all the way from Australia and South America, so we would like to invite anyone who is interested in joining us tonight. Please join us at 6:30 after the closing ceremony. So the party will be held at the Fries, located at Harbour Centre, just 5 minutes walk away from here. So if you are not sure about the location, you could ask me afterwards or any of our staff outside, and they will be able to let you know. So anyone who is interested in knowing more about B Corp, in networking with B Corp people, or you would like to expand your business network, just come over, have fun. We talk and we drink and we eat from 6:30 until 8:30 tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to make one final remark. When you write a CV, you write everything you've done in the past. That is completely irrelevant. What matters in the world is what you're going to do in the future. So what I'd like you all to do, in your mind anyway, is to write your CV for the future. What it is you're going to do to make the world better using business as a force for good. And I'll tell you the thing I'm going to do, which I think is really interesting, which is I'm teaming up with the UK B Corp movement to publish, to write, produce and publish a comic book for young adults on the values of B Corps, because I believe, like Mr. Ng believes, that this generation is going to be critical to our future. So I'd like all of you to think, what part can you play in developing this future for Business Plus? Thank you.
Thank you. While we eagerly look forward to reading Michael's new book, these are some of the books that you can read now. This is the B Corp handbook, the first, only one B Corp handbook available. This is the Chinese translation of it, published in Beijing with the support of Leping Foundation. And this is a brand new book, published only this week by Education for Good, case studies of iconic B Corps around the world. Okay, you can buy them from here or outside at the reception. Now, I have to do one more thing, presenting souvenir to the panelists. This is from a social enterprise, iBakery. So. Since they can be Chinese, so we present the new book to them. Thank you.